Hi, we started a podcast. It's called the DIY Music Podcast, and if you like what you see in this video, there's already another episode out of it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere where you get your podcasts, it's probably available. Yeah, enjoy, and thank you for checking it out. Any feedback would be very much appreciated. Enjoy.
A lot of artists nowadays, especially in the Spotify age, they want to appeal to as many people as possible. You know, they don't really care about individual fan engagement. They just want to make songs that appeal to a mass amount of people and therefore get placed on Spotify playlists, and they can make their living that way. And that's fine. That's a totally viable way to do it. But It just depends on what you want.
I think that's something that both of us would advocate against, I guess. Like, that's something that if I was, and I am, like, in a band, like, that would be the thing that I don't particularly want. If that happens and you end up with loads of people listening that aren't engaged elsewhere, cool. But my priority would be building sort of a close, small fan base that is super active.
When I listen to music on Spotify, I have many songs that I couldn't tell you the name of. I couldn't tell you the name of the artist that did them. I just like the song and I've thrown it in a playlist and I listen to it all the time and I know the song off by heart, but I don't know the artist that does it, nor do I care to find out. And I think a lot of artists, I think this is predominantly like sort of solo artists who do, you know, they do things on the laptop and they can put it on Spotify quite easily. I think a lot of artists try to go down that route. I know for a fact that there are a lot of artists who create soundtrack-esque music to do that with. And these people, they might have multiple sort of artist personas that they do this through in order to target different niches. But yeah, I mean, that is a viable way to do the DIY artist thing, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's also... it's all about going into it sort of establishing what you as an artist want. So, like, do you want to have the close, like, fan base, or do you want to mass appeal? Because then you can tailor every decision into that. So it's like, okay, so even down to, like, lyrics, because do you make your lyrics as generic as possible? Because a lot of artists that are writing stuff to go in TV and film are doing that because
the term is accessible, like, Lenny. Actually, it's audience accessible. It's not. No, we don't say generic audience anymore. That's wrong.
Sorry, if you wanted something that was audience accessible, you might consider having generic ass lyrics. So, you know, stuff like, oh, rise up, we are the wolves, all that kind of, you know, just terminology that's like, you know, just complete bollocks. But does apply to a lot of things and therefore can be used in films by Disney and, you know, whatever. And then that's how you sort of get launched into the stratosphere in terms of like writing music.
Plenty of bands who've made a lot of money that way.
True, but also, like, if you don't want that, then all of a sudden you can write little personal songs about very specific instances, because that's, you want your audience to be really connected to you as an artist, and therefore having really personal stories sort of adds to that rather than takes away from it.
Here's a point. Following on from that, if you are a DIY artist, do you think it's more about you as a person and your music than it is just about the music? Like, if you're a DIY artist and you have a relatively small fan base and you're trying to keep them engaged, do you want to make them, I hate to say it, but fans of you as well as your music?
There's something to be said about having a personal brand. Yeah.
That does make me feel sick, that term, but
yeah, you can get sort of all clinical and horrible with it, but like, it's sort of the thing that came from like the YouTube era, if you like, where people are making stuff on YouTube, and that started out as just some lad in his bedroom just sort of chatting shit to a camera for 5 minutes a week, and then people started liking it. But what that has grown to is people having to make these personal brands where they have their own logo, they have their own little catchphrases that they say at the start and the end of the videos, they have little sort of like merchandise that has, I don't know, common phrases and stuff that's said on, and all of this can be seen as really sort of gross and I don't know what the right word is for sort of how it, you know, sort of, it's a bit like corporate,
I can think
like
of a word.
manufactured almost. PG-13.
When was the last time you went on LinkedIn, Lenny?
Oh, it's been a while. I don't like LinkedIn at all.
Yeah, it's full of it. It's full of all the personal branding stuff.
Yeah, but I guess my point is that you can do it organically. Like some of the people that have sort of catchphrases that they say at the start and end of their videos on YouTube and stuff, like they came about because they needed something to say. So they said what felt natural to them. And then next time they said the same thing. And then next time they said the same thing. And then all of a sudden it just becomes sort of a regular catchphrase. But it's still organic. It's still real. It's not like they sat in a meeting with a board of advisors and went, what's the right way of getting people to subscribe at the end of our videos? It's just like, well, I wanted to mention like, oh, there's a subscribe button. If you want to click it, please do, sort of thing. And it naturally became sort of a catchphrase at the end.
And from that, we're going back to the sort of the dichotomy of manufactured and organic, and an artist who wants to go down the DIY route. One of the possible reasons that they might want to do that is because they want to be organic. They don't want to have their brand and their tone of voice dictated by other people.
Yeah. And there are definitely ways of making sure that you come across as not that. But then you get to the other side of stuff. And I don't want to talk about this for too long because there's an entire conversation to be had here. But there was a industry plant artist that came out a little while back, and people found out that they were basically an industry plant and really sort of pushed back against them, mainly because they were supposed to be like some like it was a trio. It was 3 girls in a like punk band, but it was like manufactured. It was fully thing, but they were really trying to come across, I guess, as not that, and that is way worse than having a band that is actually fully organic and fully DIY and does everything themselves, that happens to also have sort of little catchphrases and little things that you could associate with being like brand identities.
I think it depends on who makes the decisions. Like if a committee of,
that's what we said earlier,
managers have come up with it, then if you've all sat down and gone, okay, this is our music, this is our brand, then that's organic. That's perfectly fine. I mean, the other thing is perfectly fine too if you want to be a manufactured artist, but that's for you to decide.
Yeah, it's the same thing again. You got to draw the line where you want to be, and then
how DIY do you actually want to be?
But you've also got to own it as well. So like the artists that are industry plants, if you just own it and go, my dad is head of A&R at Sony, and that's how I got signed to Sony. Got to use the opportunities as they come, sort of thing. Like if you actually owned it, I'd have a lot more respect than sort of pretending to be a DIY when you're actually in that privileged position. Like sort of accepting what you want and then owning that. Then there's
because
no
in
issue.
a way, I think a lot of artists try to use the DIY thing as a selling point. It's like, look how dirty we are. Look how little money that we've got. Like the sort of the glamour and poverty kind of thing that artists tend to go for sometimes. I think there is an element of that in that example that you're describing anyway.
I guess the lesson here is if you want to be DIY, you got to sort of actually be genuine and want it.
Or you've just got to determine how DIY you want to be. Like, to what extent do you want to do it on your own? Do you want to have like other people involved who are going to maybe make some decisions for you? If so, then that's fine, but that's your decision that you have to make.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think when you make that decision, you have to stick to it, because if you start off saying I'm a DIY artist and you build your brand on that, and then you suddenly then you go to Warner or whatever, then that can alienate a fan base.
And that comes up to the common insult of selling out because you're going against what you initially set out your morals to be. Yeah, so with that, thank you very much for listening or watching. This has been the DIY Music Podcast. I'm Lenny. That's Joe. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See you in a bit.